Music is such an integral part of video games, and all of entertainment and media for that matter. Some of my first strong memories of The Legend of Zelda were so impactful due to the epic and catchy motifs that were connected to them. Every time I think back to playing some of the older Zelda games I grew up on, like the original Zelda, A Link to the Past, or Ocarina of Time, I have one of the unforgettable catchy melodies associated with those specific memories that transcend me into an emotional experience of nostalgia. But nostalgia aside, even any of the entries that came out in the last decade were stocked full of bangers. With a variety of original scores along with newer renditions of past material, evoking similar powerful sensations just as emotionally impactful as the tracks in the retro Zelda games, if not more. The fact is, The Legend of Zelda has always been known for having amazing music, so I wanted to make a video dedicated to the collective music of the entire series, looking at how it's used and how it's evolved, some fun facts, some super impactful moments that stayed with me forever, and some of its best compositions, in my opinion. But first, when I think about the music in The Legend of Zelda, my first thought immediately takes me to A Link to the Past, which was the first Zelda game I have fond memories of. I always imagined dashing through Hyrule Field with the Pegasus boots as the epic overworld theme played along, enthusiastically driving the adventure forward. This, of course, is a rendition of the original theme from The Legend of Zelda on the NES, which is definitely amazing on its own. But to me, when I think of the main theme that features that familiar Hyrule motif, the definitive version is the one from A Link to the Past, which is pretty much the same thing but was more animated with the sounds of the Super Nintendo, which made it able to emulate actual instrumentation, making it feel more grand, which actually captured and enhanced the monumental scope of this version of Hyrule and its epic adventure. A Link to the Past is full of amazing compositions, and a lot more familiar tunes that repeated throughout the series originated from it, like the elegant fairy fountain theme, the comforting melodies of Kakariko Village, and the gentle theme of Zelda's Lullaby, and one of my favorites, the Hyrule Castle theme.
The score is so in your face and intense.
It really tonally encapsulates the feeling of a medieval dungeon, while being exhilarating and catchy at the same time. It's quite impressive, actually. As much as I love that piece of music, I can't decide if I like the version in the Wind Waker more. The melody line feels more melodic with a slower tempo over the dramatic strings striking steadily behind it, really giving off a haunting nostalgic dynamic, which perfectly fits this part of the game. Being as this is the old Hyrule Castle that was lost and washed away by the gods in a desperate attempt to stop Ganondorf from seizing control of Hyrule. The Wind Waker does this often and in some of the most effective ways that correlate with the story. You can hear the melody line of the Kokiri Forest on Outset Island, both Kokiri Forest and the Lost Woods theme in the Forest Haven, and Kakariko Village on Windfall Island, but much more upbeat and cheerful. But Zelda doesn't just have masterful musical compositions. In fact, in A Link to the Past is where the Zelda series first started dabbling in atmospheric scores and environmental and reactive melodies, which would evolve and become an even bigger part of the series down the line. What I mean by atmospheric and environmental would be like in the caves of A Link to the Past, how it sounds eerie, wet, and echoey, or something along the lines of most of the arrangements in Breath of the Wild. Though these may not be as catchy as the main themes, they can really emulate the feeling of the atmosphere and enhance certain emotions, making you feel more connected to the story. Reactive melodies are musical pieces that have to be triggered by an event, obstacle, or character, and they can be executed in very subtle ways, as well as very abruptly, which triggers a variety of emotional responses. For example, in pretty much all the 3D Zeldas, when you approach an enemy, or vice versa, some sort of battle music starts to seep over the area's theme, usually depending on the distance or type of enemy. Another example would be in Breath of the Wild, when Link starts traveling with a horse, how the melody of the piano starts to subtly yet sporadically play an arrangement of graceful sounding notes, really coloring the setting with an awesome and appropriate tone, which makes traversing Hyrule and all its regions a pretty delightful and notable experience. Alternatively, in Ocarina of Time, during the final sequence, when Link is climbing the spiral staircase of Hyrule Castle, which has been taken over by Ganondorf, you can hear Ganondorf's sinister theme gradually intensifying as Link ascends higher and higher, producing a foreboding and ominous feeling of anxiousness as Link approaches the final confrontation with Ganondorf. Majora's Mask really leaned into the atmospheric type music, like how each region shares the same composition but with varying environmental sounds to fit the ambience of said region. Or like how Clocktown's music progressively gets more distressful and apprehensive as each day passes by, till the night of the final day it's completely overtaken by an overwhelming underscore, full of dissonance and a feeling of despair, making you really feel the anxiety and fear of the people of Termina and the pressure Link must feel to complete his daunting task and stop the moon from destroying everything. The theme to the Skull Kid under Majora's Mask's influence does something similar. It's manic, jumbled, and uneasy, giving off a powerful and chaotic presence that's really barbaric and effective. The Legend of Zelda is phenomenal at enhancing the storytelling and gameplay by complementing parts of the journey with exceptional and appropriate musical pieces and ambience. Let's go back a little bit to the very first Zelda game. The title screen gives off a very triumphant and adventurous vibe, for lack of a better term. It's just bold and catchy at the same time. It makes you want to get up and start slashing Octoroks with a wooden sword. Funny thing is, Koji Kondo, the composer for a big portion of the Zelda series music, wrote this sick little tune in one night after finding out that Ravel's Bolero was legally copywritten for a month's time, and the game couldn't be delayed. And I'm not quite sure if the overworld piece was written before that, but it sounds like it shares inspiration from the title theme. Or possibly the other way around, I don't know. So who knows if The Legend of Zelda came out a month later, it might have sounded like this. Not that there's anything wrong with that piece, but what a missed opportunity that could have been. There's so many awesome moments using that specific leitmotif throughout the series. You can pretty much hear the main note progression in every Hyrule Overworld theme. It became synonymous with Zelda, as well as so many other songs throughout the series. Like Ocarina of Time's Saria's song, the light-feeling, uplifting tune that played in the Lost Woods, which easily became one of the most recognizable jingles in The Legend of Zelda and was used in future titles and Zelda spin-offs in medleys and newer versions of the song. And everyone knows the Gerudo Valley theme. I'm convinced it's like impossible not to nod your head to that beat. I mean, when you hear those upbeat, groovy Latin guitars playing that catchy melody with that hard rhythm, fire. Though Zelda is great at stirring excitement, atmosphere, and tension, the series also excelled with overtones of playful, upbeat, and jovial characteristics, like the lively house or shop themes that also carried over into other Zelda games, or the Kokiri Forest's magical-like tones. And when the series leaned into its more goofy side and introduced fun, exuberant characters, it was accompanied by fun, whimsical jingles that give off that carefree and bubbly quality to the mood. Link's Awakening is the first Zelda game to really feature lighthearted goofiness, to contrast with energetic and exhilarating themes like Taru Taru, which is borderline my favorite Zelda tune, especially the Switch version. Check it out. As well as its rendition of the main overworld theme. The goal in this journey was to actually collect special instruments around Koholint in the dungeons so you could wake up the Windfish. And man, the culmination of all those instruments playing the Ballad of the Windfish, it's so harmoniously groovy. I absolutely love both versions of that song. The game also featured specific tunes for each dungeon to set the tone for each one in a variety of different ways. Atmospheric, eerie, or melodramatic and moody, which was the first for the series, and some were really amazing. The Southern Shrine and Face Shrine, which really evokes the mystery and uneasy feeling of facing the fact that everything and everyone you've met and built relationships with along this journey really doesn't exist. And in the 2019 Switch remake, that track is like, damn! It just hits you in the feels, like hard. Another significant hit you in the feels moment comes from Twilight Princess, Midna's Lament. Of course. Let's set the scene real quick. After Zant has cemented Link in his beast form and stole the fused shadow, which is everything you've worked for up to this point in the story, and to make matters worse, he leaves your close companion Midna in a mortally wounded state. The rolling notes of each chord perfectly captures the dreadful sadness and tension, and expresses a sense of urgency and emotional desperation as you race towards Zelda, battling enemies and tackling obstacles, with your companion's life on the clock, culminating in an intimate and moving moment, accompanied by Zelda's lullaby, where Zelda seemingly sacrifices herself to save Midna as a blended crescendo of Zelda's lullabies and Midna's theme plays behind the scene. Whoa. So Link and Midna can now do what they have to do to save Hyrule. Golden. As the Zelda series progressed through the years, so did the quality of storytelling, and the more cinematic the games got, the more cinematic the music became. Skyward Sword has some of the most complex and compelling compositions, fully composed with full symphonies, and you can really feel it throughout the game, elevating the storytelling to another level. When you're flying through the skies, you almost feel the wind against your face as the epic music transcends you into the clouds of the game, with a triumphant and awe-inspiring composition. Skyward Sword was made with amazing quality, featuring an actual orchestra, and is one of the most cinematic experiences in a Zelda game, due to the story, cutscenes, and the emotions the music encapsulates. The Ballad of the Goddess is amazing in every way, in every version of it. Fi's theme and Farewell is as soothing as it is moving, as are many other moments in this game that are enhanced immensely by the soundtrack. It also features creative incidental music, like the ancient backstory being told by disappearing and changing ink blots on a canvas, or Groos's boisterous and bassy theme music, as well as Demise's revival, which invokes a monstrous uneasiness, similar to the old animated films like Disney's Fantasia, featuring the gigantic Shadow Demon. Or for a more recent reference, the theme music that plays in the Multiverse of Madness during the Shumagorath fight, which really tonally resonates a feeling of evil and horror. Breath of the Wild, on the other hand, goes with a more soundscapey or atmospheric take on its soundtrack. The instrumentation really embodies the broken yet peaceful post-apocalyptic world setting by not really following a melody line and using a bunch of stray notes with odd timings to express the ambience of the area. It's quite beautiful, actually. And it really adds an organic, abandoned vibe to the world. The cool part is, sometimes they hide old melody lines from past songs in certain areas, like the Temple of Time, inside houses, and in Death Mountain, to name just a few. It's really clever how you can find old tunes in those stray notes when you really speed the songs up, which reference past iconic locations, or similar areas, and almost mirroring its past counterparts in its ancient and broken state. It's quite creative in typical Zelda fashion. There's these little reactive jingles that are done with the piano, which are also references to past themes or old fanfares when you get an item, discover a secret, or complete a song. Which reminds me of one thing I missed in Breath of the Wild. Ever since even the first Zelda, Link is able to play some sort of music. Flutes, ocarinas, guitars. And as the series went on, that became a bigger and bigger part of the series, which is interactive melodies on another level. But I guess in Breath of the Wild we get a finger whistle? But anyway, not all of the musical pieces are done in this environmental soundscape style. Some of the melodies are more accustomed to Zelda's past take on music throughout the series and less environmental, like Sidon and Mipha's theme, or the stables you find across Hyrule, Kakariko, and Hedtano Village, the Lost Woods and the Lome Maze, and the Ancient Tech Lab. That one's really cool. And just like classic 3D Zelda, when you engage an enemy or vice versa, you'll trigger a variety of different battle music. Typically, it's this messy, unpredictable, tribal-like percussion, striking stressful chords here and there, which is fitting. But the Guardians, man. When you hear those fast, erratic piano notes ignite over the soundscape, it triggers an instant fear and anxiety. As each hasty note strikes, it all of a sudden fills the setting with a manic dissonance that keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Oh, damn, he saw me. Go, go. Come on.
But for me, one of the coolest musical pieces of Breath of the Wild is the theme to Hyrule Castle, which is so grim and suspenseful, yet so epic and motivating, really embodying the paramount task of taking on Calamity Ganon, who has been waiting and pushing back Zelda's power for a century, and just itching to get out and finish what he started.
The organ over the military snare beat
Is chilling, and how they blend Ganondorf's theme with Zelda's lullaby and bits of the Hyrule leitmotif to create probably my favorite Zelda medley is just an exhilarating experience that gets you ramped up to go kick some Ganon ass. That's what I love about the Zelda series. It's just so in tune with making you feel what you're supposed to feel at the right moments. Whether it be creepy and ominous, unsettling and otherworldly, cheerful and upbeat, or monumentally epic. There are a variety of bangers throughout the series. and so many more I didn't mention, like Zelda 2's epic dungeon crawling theme, the Zelda spin-off Age of Calamity that totally pumps up songs from Breath of the Wild and just gets you in the mood to murder some freaking chickens. Wait, there's no cuckoos in this game? To murder some freaking retail. A Link Between Worlds is worth it alone just to hear newer renditions of the old Link to the Past stuff. And its original music slaps too. Triforce Heroes and Phantom Hourglass are also greatly composed. Oh yeah, and Spirit Tracks? The entirety of that game hits you with groovy tracks from start to finish. No pun intended. I mean, I could go on all day, but the point is, the quality of music in The Legend of Zelda and how it's executed is nothing short of amazing. It's helped mold the series by shaping its heartfelt moments, its hyped up moments, its tense moments, and the moments in between that can easily go unnoticed. There's not much else I have to say.
Besides, I can't wait for Breath of the Wild sequel, Tears of the Kingdom.
And to see what kind of other magical moments are in store for us.